verses 37 through 39. And while I turn there, I'll read it to you. It says, "And he, Jesus, said to him, 'You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself.'" So, this idea of love is perfect for this week. It's Valentine's Day week. And we're kind of continuing on with our series on Keep Your Heart. And from our heart, we always think of hearts and love, especially at Valentine's Day. And one of the things that we're actively supposed to do with our heart is to love. And so we're going to talk about that today. But first, I'll just let you know what I'm doing here. I want to make a background of a big heart in some watercolor. So I'm trying to find the right kind of pinkish color to just watercolor this heart onto here. And I realized that I still had some pencil markings on there from kind of planning out this page and figuring out what I wanted to do. And so I'm just going to erase those pencil marks before I get started with the watercolor. Sometimes I forget to do that. I kind of lightly put pencil on there to plan out kind of scale what size things ought to be on a Bible page. And then I forget to erase sometimes. So there we go. We're going to erase, and then we're going to find that perfect pink to make this heart on this page. And I am just freehanding this heart, just kind of doing it lightly in pink and trying to get heart the shape that I want. You can leave the pencil marks if freehanding it kind of freaks you out and you think that's going to be really hard. You could do that. I'm just kind of going with it and don't care that if it's a perfect heart or not. I'm going to fill in this heart with pink. And as I do that, let's just talk about this idea of actively loving, of obeying these two basic commands. I mean, Jesus said that there are two main things we need to do as his followers. First things first, everything will flow from these foundational, fundamental principles. Number one, love God. And here it doesn't mean don't just passively tolerate or accept that he's there. Love him with everything that you have, your heart, your mind, your soul. And here, as I'm doing this watercoloring, I'm realizing that I forgot to put my Bible mat underneath there. It ends up not bleeding through it all, the watercolor, but sometimes I get a little heavy-handed with the water when I watercolor, and I just want to make sure that it didn't affect any of the pages underneath it. So just grab that Illustrated Faith Bible mat and put it under there. You can use a flexible cutting mat from Dollar Tree. That works too. I just happen to have this one sitting there and ready to go. So we're going to love him with all of our heart, our mind, and our soul. And this description, it really kind of speaks to an intentional choice, a choice to love, to focus on the object of our affection. We get to choose to love God on a daily basis in a practical way. Now, if we're in love with a person here on earth, we want to spend time with them. We want to tell them how awesome they are and feel their love in return. We hang on their every word. Loving God is so similar in a practical sense. We want to spend time with him, discussing our joys and our frustrations and acknowledging his presence in our lives. We want to worship him and tell him how great he is, and we want to listen to his word and feel the depth of his amazing love for us. So it's simple, but we don't always do it consistently. And that's kind of the challenge, is to love God in a practical way on a daily basis. To really make that a part of our lives is essential to having a Christ-centered life. And number two, Jesus said, the second commandment is to love people. Now, I think this is really easy in an abstract kind of way. Like that distant, oh yes, I have Jesus' love for the people in Africa that those missionaries are helping, so I'm going to donate some money and I'm going to pray for them to do a really good job with that. And maybe that family in the church is going through a tragedy. I'm going to give to the offering for them and I'm going to pray for them. And that's loving them. Maybe even take them a meal and provide for them that way. These are the easy things. They're valuable and they're necessary, but they're pretty simple too, right? Everyday difficulty of loving those closest to us, the ones who feel the brunt of our frustrations and our problems. We're not just supposed to be kind either. Jesus says to love others as we love ourselves. One way I find that I love myself is that I always believe the best about me. When I fail to follow through on something, I don't assume that I have malicious, evil intentions. I give myself the benefit of the doubt, excusing my actions, or lack of them, due to busyness or stress or others' actions or unexpected problems, etc. I don't assume that I've got some grand scheme to make life difficult for other people. Now, in this watercoloring right here, just take a break from what we're talking about. I am hitting this with like a heat tool to dry it because I just want to see what it looks like when it's dry. You'll notice that as I made this heart, I made it lighter in the upper left-hand corner and darker in the lower right-hand corner of the heart. I'm just showing you that's got some shadowing but no bleed through on those watercolors, and I did not prep this page beforehand. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, and I didn't this time. And so I just want to dry that and see what it looks like. I also don't want to drag my hand through wet paint as I do other things on this page. So that's periodically you're just see me dry it. Sometimes I want to see what it looks like. Sometimes I just want to make sure that I don't smear it all over the place because I've done that before. Live and learn, right? And so we're talking about loving other people, and I give myself like a pass a lot of times. Like when I don't do something right, when I'm lazy about sticking to eating the right way, exercising, I don't really berate myself typically. I say, man, it's been really busy. I haven't felt great this week, and so I just didn't get to it, that kind of thing. I'm very understanding with myself. But when others let me down or don't follow through, I might assume that they're lazy, that they don't care. I rarely put myself in their shoes and think of the problems that they faced this week that might have derailed them in their good intentions, especially when it's the people closest to me: my husband, my kids, my parents, my siblings. It's easy to forget that they are individuals who are loved by God. He loves me and extends mercy and grace in light of my repeated failures. So, how can I do the same to them? How can we truly fulfill the most basic commands of Jesus this week? How will we practically love God and love people? So we've got 3 hearts now because I had originally planned for just one, but when I got it on there, I thought it needs some little trailing hearts upwards. So I wanted one that was a little darker, one that was a little lighter, and I'm just drying those. I can already tell I'm probably going to want to outline them in black because they don't seem very defined, I guess, to my eyes. But I've got this plan for word art across them that says love God, love people, kind of the main part of our devotional. And I wanted to make sure that I've got that word art on there before I outline the hearts. So I'm just trying to pick out a pen, and I know this doesn't seem like a difficult thing, but I wanted to do brush lettering for this, and trying to figure that out. I also was not quite sure that I was done with these hearts yet too, so I was kind of back and forth looking at it, trying to decide. That little heart looked like it had a lot of pooling in it. Now, if you've watercolored on your Bible pages before, you know it makes wrinkly pages, and I love wrinkly pages. I think they're so fun. But sometimes, like the little pools of watercolor paint dry, and they're very obvious pools of watercolor paint. And sometimes they land in great spots, and sometimes not so much. And I wanted to kind of smooth out that darker heart up there because it was really pooling quite a bit. So kind of even that out and make it a little bit better. I'm doing the same thing on this lighter heart, maybe add a little more color in there just to kind of even it out, give it a little bit more definition, because the more I looked at it, the more it looked not quite done to me. So I'm just going to add some more of that color from my watercolor pan there. And that's really interesting to me. I mean, it's a fun thing about watercolors is that the paint on the page will reactivate with water. So when you add more wet paint or more water, you can change what the paint looks like on the page. It's more forgiving, I guess, than a lot of other mediums because you can change it once it's already down on the page, which is really nice for those of us who make mistakes all the time. So it's kind of nice that you can kind of keep playing with it, that you can kind of keep changing the way it looks and reactivate that paint on the page. Even like drying it with the heat tool, it doesn't matter. You just add water to it, reactivate it, and it will start to move around on the page again, which is really nice. Now, you do that too many times on a thin Bible page, and you might start kind of compromising the integrity of the page. The water itself could start messing with the texture of the page and causing problems there. But for the most part, if you're light-handed with your water, it's very forgiving and easy to work with. Watercolor has become one of my favorite things to use in my Bible. So now I've got my Illustrated Faith Bible mat under there again, and I am just kind of looking at it and trying to figure out exactly where I want this word art. And I've grabbed my like a brush marker, and I'm going to do some brush lettering. Now, I will say this, brush lettering kind of takes practice. And this marker is actually not the super easiest. I find, okay, here's the deal. When the brush is very loose, so it moves, has a lot of give in the brush, it's harder to control for me as a beginning brush letterer person. I don't know. I haven't been doing this very long. So I have practiced quite a bit, but I find it easier to do it with a harder tip on the brush. And this particular pen is pretty loose. It's a little harder for me to control. And so I'm going very slowly and really kind of concentrating on lighter strokes when I'm moving upward and darker strokes when I'm moving downward. And when you see me come back and make little marks on parts that I've already done before, it's just where maybe the transition wasn't super smooth, because I am new at this, and I haven't had as much practice with this particular marker, and it is a little looser, a little harder for me to control. Then I have to go back and kind of hit those transition places again, just to make sure that they're as smooth as I want them to be. Overall, I'm very happy with the progress I've made as I've started practicing. I kind of keep a little notebook in my purse, and when waiting for something, I'll pull it out, and or if my husband's driving and I'm writing, I might pull it out while I'm talking to him and practice doing some lettering. And that has really helped me improve my brush lettering, but it's still a new thing for me. So I'm still working at being able to control some of my brush pens, and sometimes it's harder than other days. So don't give up. If you really want to learn brush lettering, you can get better and you will improve. It just takes practice. And you just want to remember thin strokes when you're going up and heavier strokes when you're coming down. And when you have these really loose brush pens like this, you want to not do super heavy on the way down, or it gets very, very wide because the brush flattens out more because it's not very rigid. So there you go. I feel like rigid ones are a little easier, but this certainly works and can turn out really nice. I just had to fix some of the transition places. So love God, love people. And of course, we want some true action steps. Action steps to really help us make this a daily part of our lives, a habit. So take a moment right now and just think about the simple ways that you can love God just a little bit better on a daily basis this week. Maybe make a plan that hooks your new habit to an action that can act as a trigger to remind you to do it daily. Because sometimes I have good intentions, but I forget. So one thing I've started doing is I'll start to pray the Lord's Prayer in the shower. Shampooing actually reminds me to start praying. I'll start with Our Father in Heaven, hallowed be your name, and then maybe just in my own words, I'll tell God how great he is. Then your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I'm going to pray for his will to be done in my home, in my family, in my specific situation. Now, I picked up this Sharpie pen and started to outline and realized that it was out of ink. So you're going to see me pick up a Pigma micron pen that's like a 0.005 small tip just to outline these hearts. Give us this day our daily bread. This is when you bring your needs to God. You tell him, ask for his provision and ask for things that you need. And then forgive us our debts as we have also forgiven our debtors. This is where I kind of think, is there something I need to ask forgiveness for? Ask God to kind of search my heart and reveal things to me. And then ask if there's something that I feel like I need to forgive someone else about that I've kind of left unforgiven. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. I ask for protection for me and my family and for strength during temptation. So maybe we could connect with God since we're doing like tidying our hearts and our homes during this series. Maybe we could connect with God as we load and unload the dishwasher, or if you don't have a dishwasher, as you're doing the dishes. I like to load the dishwasher right after dinner and turn it on to run right before bed. So in the morning, first thing, I unload it. What could be better than to talk with God about our day as we're loading the dishwasher and thanking Him for a new day in the morning while unloading it? It helps us have a tidy kitchen and a tidy heart. Let's think about how we can do the same thing with loving others. Let's start practicing believing the best about those around us. When negative thoughts pop up, we replace them with thoughts of gratitude. When we're preparing dinner, we can thank God for each family member, focusing on the good things about them and praying for them to be blessed. We can do it as we cook. We can wipe down the counters and cabinets so it keeps our home clean and our hearts free from the clutter of resentment and bitterness. I hope you enjoy this little challenge, this series on keeping our hearts and our homes tidy and ready for God's presence to dwell in them all the time. And I hope you have a great day. So this is a simple page, Love God, Love People, in Matthew 22. There's a little look up close. And I took those black pen and kind of outlined, took a break from the outline around the word art so